Hello, I am Rachel Bird, and I'm a student at FullStack, and they have given me the opportunity to talk to you for about 10 minutes about blockchain, something I find very interesting. So I'm going to share my screen, and here we go. Okay. So I want to start out with this Dilbert cartoon because pointy-haired boss is always illuminating. Here he is aware of blockchain, which is exciting because I was going to say he's the common person about this, but I guess a lot of people haven't even heard of it. So we're going to get into it. What is it? It's a peer-to-peer distributed ledger technology for a new generation of transactional applications that establishes trust, accountability, and transparency while streamlining business processes. This is extremely boring, so don't worry, we're going to get into what it really is in a much more exciting way. And here it gets more exciting because it has a distributed ledger that makes it easier to create cost-efficient business networks where virtually anything of value can be tracked and traded without requiring a central point of control. So this is way more exciting because the applications of this are vast, and we're going to get into a very controversial one soon. So how does it work? So this is a database, and it's shared by every participant in the system, and it stores the complete transaction history of whatever you're doing in there. So basically you get these blocks, and usually they're determined by certain periods of time. So like every transaction within like 10 minutes in the system will go in this block, and then the community will get access to it because they have to solve like a puzzle so it can be validated, and then it can become recorded in the system. And once it's at that point, it's very difficult to like fake a record because then it's hashed. And all that, like whatever requirement that particular blockchain has, it's been validated. So you can't really mess with it, which is awesome. Okay, so that brings us to cryptocurrency. So that's obviously, well, I don't know how obvious, but that's a typical application of blockchain technology. And cryptocurrency is a digital currency in which encryption techniques are used to regulate the generation of this is too boring. We'll get into it. You're thinking Bitcoin, we'll get there. But here's a list of other types of cryptocurrency that are used. The most famous being Dogecoin, I would say, because we have our hero, Doge, who is quite hip, so hip. Okay, so now we're at Bitcoin and back with pointy-haired boss. And he wants a very abstract explanation of Bitcoin. I will not be providing that today. We're not going to start with zero. So when was Bitcoin first used? In 2009, this person going by Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin and released a paper about it. And then in 2011, certain organizations began to use it to accept donations like WikiLeaks. But in 2013, Bitcoin really got rolling, and that was when Overstock.com started accepting it for payments. And that was when the DEA had its first like Bitcoin bust. And incidentally, that was not Silk Road. They busted something else, and Silk Road happened that same year too. So what is Silk Road? It's the first modern darknet market. So that's where you could buy your what have you, whether it be whatever illegal stuff you wanted, you could buy it on Silk Road, and you didn't want to be tracked. So it was required to browse it with Tor. So you could do it anonymously and securely. So this is really an application of Bitcoin because that's how you bought stuff on there using Bitcoin. So we're going to get back to that previous slide where it talked about that distributed ledger. I'm not condoning this. I just find it wildly interesting, this whole story of Silk Road. So the distributed ledger makes it easier to create cost-efficient business networks where virtually anything of value can be tracked and traded without requiring a central point of control. Perfect for nefarious activities. Tech is all about taking the pain points out of stuff. So this was great. But, you know, that didn't end well, thankfully, for security and what have you. But yeah, they got taken down. And it's a really, really interesting story that I highly recommend reading from Wired. They have 2 parts. It's long, but it's so good. Fun fact from that, the creator of Silk Road was actually a mediocre developer. He learned most of what he knew on the job. This is baffling. Like, he didn't even really know cybersecurity, and he made it work for a long time. So I recommend this highly. So you can make your own Bitcoin. Here's how. Bitcoin networks collect all the transactions made during a set period of time into a list called a block. So that's like every 10 minutes they make a block. And then Bitcoin miners confirm those transactions and write them into a general ledger. So what's really interesting to me is that when you're mining Bitcoin, you're actually making the system work. Like, you're confirming transactions and putting them into a general ledger. Like, for a long time, I just thought people were solving difficult algorithms that weren't related to the system, but it all works together really well. So miners take the information in a block and create a hash, and the hash is stored with a block. This gets into a lot of detail, but I didn't want to go that far today. So this is why you have, like, why it's so secure and you can't fake anything, because this hashing makes that work. And then I was really intrigued by, you get 25 Bitcoins when you do your proof of work. So I have a chart to show you how that works, but over time, this has gotten increasingly complex because they don't want to release too much Bitcoin at a time, and that retains the value of Bitcoin. So this is how it works. So you get your miners going, transactions going in, miners are working, they get a block. And this is a really easy way to think about it. So they solve this puzzle. And that gives, so whoever solves it first gets the proof of work. The miners confirm that. And then that transaction's recorded, and that miner that solved the puzzle and was confirmed gets 25 Bitcoin. This is what mining for Bitcoin can look like in real life. China gets very excited about it, and there are these really big buildings, like warehouses, where it's all about mining Bitcoin, and they're making, like, I don't know if it's millions. They're making millions of these places, but they look really bad. Oh, and then I have some Bitcoin news for you. This like core Bitcoin developer announced last January, just about a year ago, that Bitcoin failed. And he explained why, and it was mostly 2 things: that it had become something, a system completely controlled by just a handful of people. And then it's on the brink of technical collapse, he said. Systems broke down, and there's an article. He wrote a Medium post about it that's very detailed. But the 2-line didn't read from him is fail. And that's funny because today 1 Bitcoin equals about $833, and there's over 16,000 circulating. It's going to cap at 21 million, but that's about 13.5 million Bitcoin in value out there in the world. So I hope I can fail this well at some point in my life. But also I found it interesting that the IRS has to deal with this. So they right now it's heating up with the IRS and Bitcoin. They did a summons on Coinbase. So they want the identities of all the US customers at Coinbase, which is like a Bitcoin marketplace. So they can get their money, right? That's fair. Okay, so other applications of blockchain besides cryptocurrency. So Airbnb recently acquired, well, they say acqui-hired because it's people. They took on the majority of ChangeCoin developers in April last year. So, and that was like a small transaction, like small Bitcoin transaction company. And the co-founder and CTO at Airbnb said, the question is whether there's a way to export a user's reputation and allow access elsewhere to help other sharing economy models really flourish. So I just have one question. In the words of the great Kelly Kapoor, how dare you? Because I don't think my Airbnb review should be looked at if I'm getting like a home loan or something else. Like, just leave it. But watch out, because like your Airbnb reviews might be used for other things soon. And then banks are checking out blockchain, but not for their central banking practices, just like other stuff banks do. I was impressed that my bank, USAA, is checking it out. Deloitte, that large consulting company, is even using it for client auditing now. So there's a bunch of business uses of blockchain. These are a few of them. I think digital contract management is an awesome way to use it. And for employment and work records, that's interesting because the world's changing. People are freelancing, working remotely, so this can keep that dialed in and secure. And for copyright, intellectual property stuff, and smart property, that's weird to me. That's like houses and cars. Well, no, like that, not houses and cars, stuff that's smaller than that in your house. It can keep track of that, make sure it's tracked if it's stolen or something. So my question to you is, if you had access to blockchain technology, what would you use it for? Because you can make your own blockchain app with Ethereum. So a blockchain app is called a DApp, a decentralized app. So Ethereum is brought to you by a Swiss nonprofit. I thought that was shady at first. It looks pretty legit when I looked it up. But let's see. Let's go on there. I just want to show you what that looks like. They have a really nice site, and then you can use Ethereum to build your own cryptocurrency, and Ethereum is a cryptocurrency, but they're not Bitcoin. People get very confused, and I used to call it hipster Bitcoin, but it's not. You can build apps with Ethereum. So your own cryptocurrency, your own like Kickstarter site, your own organization. They're funny. They're like, robots are better because they aren't swayed emotionally. And then your own thing. So let me go back here. There's a lot of great info on these links, but okay, so these dApps are being built by people using Ethereum, and there's currently 328 listed. But I think it's really fun to go through here and look around and see what people are doing. I like this incentivized open source software development one. There's also one for apartment contracts that I think is smart. Here it is. But there's just all kinds of things people are doing. So it's super fun. And so I was also, in my research, I found out like blockchain developers are in demand, and like there's even blockchain consultants that can charge pretty high. So this might be something to consider. And the most important slide, I'm done. Thank you. Bye.